Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, please do subscribe. All three channels: Evolutionary, the original, EEARTS, and Heart's Home. And we're going to start out talking about, well, all the craziness going on. It was a crazy night for us. We lost power last night, and we're talking to friends and we're talking to family members, and it's just like every connection is horrible. Every phone call, it's definitely stressed. You could feel this stress all over the place. We're talking to people in Idaho, crazy weather, giant hail. We have family members, and before I forget, please do send your prayers and positive intentions for Brian in Canada. Brian in Canada is one of our regulars and a great person, a wonderful person going through some health challenges right now. So please send your positive healing energies Brian's way.
Yes, please and thank you. And it really has been not just a internet issue, but like physical issues, emotional issues, people coming up with like rashes out of the blue, emotional things coming up. And I attribute it to several different factors. I think this is an alchemy of things going on that are affecting people who are really actually quite awake and very sensitive to things that are ongoing. So it's about grounding ourselves really well.
These are challenging times in so many ways, and you see here from the Washington Post, is the internet apocalypse nigh? And some will say, great, bring it, and because we understand, the bigger picture, the internet, absolutely, it's a military thing. So much of what we get is always first and foremost military applications that are brought out and then brought into everybody's homes. FIVEG is a military tool that's been utilized to bring better connectivity. And 46 was out there bragging all yesterday. It was like all his tweets were about oh, we're bringing you faster internet speeds, da da da. And I'm looking at some of the tweets, and people are like, it's not fast enough, need it now, not later. And it makes you realize, boy, we got a long way to go with people understanding. There are still so many that don't have a clue as to what's going on, unfortunately. Maybe it's still more than half the planet doesn't have a clue at all what's going on, just knows something seems a little weird lately.
It does. And keep in mind, too, they're going to get people to try to follow the herd. So, one of AI's jobs is to try to be that herd leader. So, it's going to create these accounts and make it sound like people are excited about these services and making other people feel alone and think, well, gosh, am I the only one who knows about this stuff? No, you are not the only one. It's just they are really doing this bait and switch thing to a very high degree.
Oh, they absolutely do. And in a world now where, you look at these responses and half of them might not even be human, it's, you really got to develop your discernment. And one of the things that came through from the guides last night was those that are working on themselves will have a much better time moving through these times than those that are not working on themselves, physically, mentally, spiritually, all the above. If you're drowning yourself in toxins, you're definitely creating the conditions to have a harder time. This is the time not to, drown ourselves in chemicals of any sort that are going to dull the consciousness, because it's going to lead to a cascading effect going down, 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 down in vibration, which is going to open you up to all sorts of issues and attacks from all sorts of parasitic beings that are literally out there.
When you are on a spiritual path, no matter what that looks like for you, if you are being true to yourself and you are doing the right thing and being good to your body and you're having a good relationship with higher self and showing your body and your mind and your soul that you care what goes in you and what you expose yourself to, this has an automatic sewn in kind of protection to it. It's something that just comes with those actions. So that's something we all could use a little more of, learning and understanding just truly how to love yourself, how to be good to yourself, how to put yourself first. You know, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't put yourself number one, nobody else will. And I have to throw that out there. And I'm one who, you know, I'm constantly learning that lesson. And I know so many caregivers out there, they're always, you know, putting other people first because it's in your nature. But sometimes we just have to stop and check ourselves and do something good for yourself. Just do something good for you and for your soul, and that shows higher self that you do love yourself. And really, that comes with so much padding and protection. It's a beautiful thing.
So this article really is just talking about the Carrington event and the solar cycles, you know, things that most of you guys, again, vast majority are well aware of. And, you know, if a Carrington event happened nowadays, wow, we would really be just groping around in the dark because we're so dependent on the technology. You know, I think it was the Mayans that spoke about a prophecy of, in these times, our technologies, humans' technologies will turn on them. Absolutely, that is the case that's going on. Our technologies are being used to enslave us and to cut us off from all of the natural world. And, you know, this article is just talking about what's, you know, again, inevitable, that we're going to have breakdowns in the grid, that we're going to have breakdowns in our technology, and it might become a regular thing. Absolutely. That's guaranteed. Again, you know, the guides spoke of that. And we were without power for maybe like 4 hours yesterday. And, you know, when you're in the south and you're experiencing temperatures of, you know, around 3 digits, oh yeah, you know, if you're used to AC and being able to put your AC at 72 or whatever you keep it at to sleep, oh, it's going to be a wake-up call sleeping in 85 degrees, 90 degree weather. And this is part of what humanity is going to find itself facing. So, you know, again, it's going to have to be mitigated as best we can given our situations. Like, we do have a generator. We're going to be working on trying to upgrade that generator, and then eventually trying to get a backup system to that's more feasible for long term. And, you know, again, we have situated ourselves in a place where if we don't have any way of heating ourselves, we're not going to freeze to death, and we should still have water nearby on purpose, and plenty of, you know, foraging foods that would be available. Of course, when you see everything that's going on in this world about, okay, well, we're going to outlaw wood-burning stoves. We're going to outlaw gas stoves. What they want is be able to turn you off. If you say a word that doesn't agree with the system, they could just flick a switch and cut your power, make you suffer for a little bit. This is part of what they're going to be doing in order to push us again and herd us into the pens, those 15-minute pens, if you know what we mean. So, you know, again, this article could have been word for word published 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months. You know, it sounded like a cut and paste article that had absolutely nothing new to it. That's why I almost didn't include it. But at the same time, they are telegraphing what's coming, and it is part of their, you know, dangle the carrot and then use the whip.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they do, and they do this over and over again. But we really do just need to be in a place where we are able to take care of ourselves, because in order for them to do what they're doing, there has to be an agreement between consciousnesses. And if we do not agree that we want to be treated that way, or we will allow ourselves to be treated that way and controlled that way, well, then they just can't. But really, it's up to us, each individual, to decide and, either make that agreement with the controllers or, come to the understanding that I want to be able to care for myself and I do not want other people to make my decisions for me. Everything comes with some type of an energetic price tag, but you really have to figure out, both ways would really suck, but you have to choose your suck. You really do. Do you want to be in a 10-minute sucky place? Or do you want to be, out in a place where you're having to deal with inconveniences of weather? And to me, I'll take the weather. I'll take the hardship of the hot, the cold, the rain, the wet, whatever, because that's just, more of a natural part of life. And so we just all have to choose our suck.
Wow. Okay. And air quality live updates. Yes, we heard from our own beloved Mary D up in Wisconsin, and the air is horrible, and it's hard to breathe. And Chicago now, it was Montreal a couple of days ago. Now Chicago has the worst air quality, and again, what they're coming out of the woodwork with, this is what you get for climate change. Yeah. This is what you get with arson. This is the reality. I mean, there's even articles that talk about, people arrested for arson up in Canada. All these fires popping out, all of a sudden. Coincidence? No, there are no coincidences. And yet, yeah, absolutely. Millions of people are at risk because of this smoke.
Yeah. And it's something that, of course, they're going to cause the problem and then ride in on their high horse and say, oh, here, we have a solution. Don't worry. And this is the story that just goes on and on and on. But, it takes time to adjust to it. It takes time to wake up to it. And it takes time to get yourself set up so that you're out of their way.
Yeah, so, here you have Detroit, Chicago, and Minneapolis among 4 cities with the worst air quality in the world anywhere, even including China and some other areas in India that are just known to have horrible air quality. And then we have severe storms with large hail and, expect power outages. Everything is ramping up to an all-new level, and the Iberian Peninsula experiencing one of its most notable wildfire smoke events in modern history as well. Yes, there is a uniformity to this. Texas is roasting, may reach temperatures hotter than everywhere but pretty much the Sahara. That's insane. But again, all this is stuff that can be augmented with technology. Yes, CERN, HARP, satellites, and technologies we really, really don't understand. And I would not be surprised, in fact, I would expect it, that we're going to have a lot of power outages this summer. And then they'll do it again to us in the winter. So here it is. It's time for us to, buckle up and be as prepared as we possibly can be, whatever that looks like for the individual. And we understand, not everybody has the same options. And, again, I would work with neighbors, friends, families as much as you can to support yourself. Many people, as soon as the power went out on our street, what do I hear? I hear generators humming. So we're so far out in the boonies, people are used to the power going out and then not coming back right away. And these people are able to do it on their own. There's a lot of hunters and fishermen and things like that. Fisher ladies, women, whatever. You got to be so crazily specific in this world, right? Yeah, right. Hunter-gatherer people, beings, mind-body complexes.
Entities, yeah, just
entities. Does that cover us now, Joe? Yeah. And this extreme Texas heat wave to swell across the southern and central U.S. too, as you see these actual temperatures. Like, I know we're going to be experiencing 4 or 5 days over 100 with the humidity, it's going to probably feel like 110s to 120s. That's really brutal. Really, really brutal. Parts of South Australia experienced the coldest June day ever. Parts of South America are getting the same thing. We were talking to David Devine about Bolivia and everything over there too. So you have the extremes going on. We have the extremes going on. And we have unprecedented flooding. This is in Romania. We're seeing it globally, and we're so used to seeing it now, it doesn't even make us blink. And this is over in Ghana. Again, extreme floodings and bright fireballs exploding. Now, Nuremberg trials. Oh, now that's a curious sign, right? A very bright fireball explodes over Nuremberg, Germany. So just, that's where they had the trials for those NAZI people. You remember after World War II? Is that a sign of what's to come? I mean, many of us only put out hope that there can be massive change. Because again, Hitler, he didn't commit suicide with Eva Braun. No, that was again, just like, Gilligan's Island, the guy that has an island, his name starts with an E. Is he really gone? Yeah, he's probably partying on his own private island. There's so many islands in this world. Again, whether it's the H-man or the E-man, this system takes care of its own.
It sure does.
And New Zealand, by the way, bright fireball explodes over the North Island, produced a massive sonic boom. Are these, again, what we see on planet Earth is warfare in so many ways. And we've also talked about the fact that humans, in general, are, in many cases, migrants and immigrants to new worlds because of the war that's going on all over, not just our area here, but all over the galaxy.
Definitely.
Here's Dutch. First Apple One computer from Jobs and Gates. Sold from them and at Radio Shack as a kit for $666.66. Their explanation is they like the number 6. Yeah, whatever. Again, there you go. I mean, this is an ad. Palo Alto, California. $666.66. Yeah, I mean, where does that come from? Obviously, we know. Predictive programming. Yes, we do live in a matrix in which expectancy, what do you expect? In many ways, it has a very big chance and on the likelihood of what you expect coming into manifestation. Now, if you have 8 billion people and you have 33% of them, about that, expecting certain events, then there are events that are probably going to occur that would fit that bill to a degree. Might not be exactly what they expected because it's not 100% of the people putting their intention out there. This is why and how they manipulate our intention.
But what if you are able to bring to the attention of these other people that, yes, what they believe they can bring into fruition, if you tell them that there is another way, we don't have to go in this direction, well, then you have a chance of things going a different direction.
Absolutely. And this is what we wrestle with every day. So, again, we'll have people that are fairly awake and they'll say, why are you talking about all this negative stuff? Just focus on the positive. Well, again, if 2% of the world is fully awake, and that's probably optimistic, 1%, I don't know what the number is. None of us really do know exactly. That's not enough to cause a paradigm shift. You have to awaken more in order to get a paradigm shift. And now, because of some really negative events that have happened, it's awakening the masses. And we have a much higher chance of a paradigm shift. Because now when I look out there and I see all these different tweets and I see these different postings on different forums and different articles, and I see them putting fluff pieces out, basically trying to prop up and pad everything the system is handing us, and people are commenting below where they're allowed to and saying you're full of crap. Yeah, it's shifting. It is shifting. We got to keep going though. And if you don't wake up new people, you're not going to paradigm shift for everybody. So are you in service to self or others? Because we can, go off on our own little island if we're able to, and ignore society and let society deal with itself. If we're able to, most people aren't able to do that either.
Right. We're kind of in this pool together.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, the heart saying, I got my side fine, but the kidneys are like, but we're failing. Doesn't matter. The heart's going down too if the kidneys go.
It's all in it together, yeah.
We are part. We're all cells in a bigger body. It must be a coincidence that from 2003 to 2023, there wasn't one case of malaria spread by mosquitoes, and along comes a company funded by Gil Bates to solve a problem that didn't exist. And suddenly, in the exact places where he releases the mosquitoes, there's an outbreak of malaria. Yeah, and that's what we had, talked about the other day. There's cases in Florida. There's cases over in Texas. And by the way, that is where he did release those mosquitoes. And, again, I think it's safe to say that he's not really a typical human at this point in time.
I mean, when are people really, truly going to understand it? I mean, it's a problem at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Every living former U.S. president, except 45, is a direct descendant of slaveholders. And that includes Biden and Obama on Obama's mother's side. Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? But at the same time, when you get to the fact that, slavery is something that still happens on this planet, and the reality is, the vast majority of humans on this planet are economic slaves. And yes, we pay more taxes now than when we had the tea rebellion going on. Way more taxes now. Everything has gotten far worse when it comes to the political system, not really better. And yet slavery is a reality. So among America's political elite, Reuters found that 5 living presidents, 2 Supreme Court justices, 11 governors, and 100 legislators descend from ancestors who enslaved one specific race of people. Again, they do always want to create anger, and they want us, to always be fighting each other instead of looking at it like we are all humans here. We're all cells in the body. They want us looking at it like I am a patriotic American. I am a patriotic Spaniard. I'm a patriotic Ghanan or Libyan or wherever. Again, they divide us through the boundaries, the borders that are ever changing, always changing, constantly changing. The political systems and the ideologies that dominate the planet. There's this famous painting right here. 47 men are depicted signing the Declaration of Independence. We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, but you didn't include specific races. And 34 of 47 were slaveholders. Talk about hypocrisy. The country was founded on hypocrisy. But then again, Columbus discovered Americas. What about the hundreds of millions of people that were already here? Were they lost? No.
No, it was more like indigenous people discovered Columbus was lost, and that's really what happened. But I'm looking at this thing here. It says 34 of the 47. Now, the number 47 is really jumping out at me, and I wonder if it has something to do with the next presidency.
Wow. Oh, good one, sweetie. This girl is sharp. Yeah. Will 45 be 47? Or, there's the guy from Florida who has military ties, and, is it maybe a younger version? Could it be, from the famous family, Kennedy? I was reading an article and they were just laughing, like, and of course, it's people behind the system. It was like MSNBC or CNN, one of those two. Oh, we can't take him seriously. No, because he really is calling out the system more than anybody that we see. But we have to recognize that there's always plants in there, and then at some point in time, we hope that there is, and maybe he will maintain that momentum of spilling the beans. But again, when there's always karmic repercussions. So two family members obviously were lost, his dad and his uncle, and there is going to be this karmic butt biting that happens back, and of course it was the power structure that did that. And as we've gotten, when it comes to Marilyn Monroe, for instance, she knew about the real power structure. She knew about the ETs. She knew about the interdimensional aspects. And she couldn't be trusted to keep her mouth shut, too. So, there's a lot of that does happen. And again, this is just, of course, this is the greatest of hypocrisy.
And I mean, she really did have a lot of people listening to her. She was so popular, and they really couldn't afford her to speak out too much, which is really unfortunate. Now, I mean, that's why, we really have to be kind of cryptic doing what we do, because there's certain beings, like if you cross a certain threshold and they find you a threat, and they do find Mike and I a threat, we just manage to stay on this cusp, and we are protective of ourselves, and we are private, and that's not because we don't love people. We're just afraid of that one creeping through the cracks, because things have happened to people in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And David Icke is one that's probably told things like they are more than most, but he does seem to have some sort of Galactic Federation protection there.
Yeah, and really, there are certain people, there's like agreements where they can come out with certain amounts of information, and until I have a certain green light, I'm not going to be so open.
Absolutely. So this country, when we look to this picture, and one nation under God, very biblical, very, very biblical. But remember Colossians 3:22, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is upon you to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and fear of, again, when you say this, people, I see, like I drive by this sign and it says, Jesus is Lord. And I right away, it's like they don't know what they're even talking about. They really don't. They're just saying something that they've heard. They don't even have a clue of what they're saying. It's just monkey see, monkey do. You're told something. And some of my best friends have been people that, get out there in the streets and trying to hand pamphlets to people. And, say, are you saved? And, again, it's all based on a system of gaslighting and making people feel guilty for something that, they didn't even do themselves. And so, because you're born into this original guilt trip, you need to follow the system. Follow the system. And again, some people throw away all the extra and just simply take the good stuff, like the Beatitudes, and turn the other cheek and love and all that, and they ignore the rest. Like my mom used to say, I hate the Old Testament. Yuck, don't like that God. I like the God of Jesus. He's nice. And here's a Catholic girl all her life, going to Catholic church. Still went to church even when she hit 90, and yet she was okay on the other side, and she didn't really have faith, because when she was getting ready to pass on, I would tell her, you're going to find yourself out of the body. You'll probably be greeted by Dad, maybe my brother, other family members, and it's going to be okay. you'll probably be able to see your body there. And she's like, I don't know. And I was like, I do know. And, she's like, well, I hope so. And yeah, she was fine. And she took 2 years to figure out what she wanted to do. And now she's moved on up into 5D, and she's not coming back to this realm for foreseeable future.
Well, what's really important, I think, is that you really have to sit where your soul is sitting. And for some people, this is their path, and that's okay. Not to be judged. I think it's just when it's pushed back and forth onto other people as if other people are doing something wrong. But it's really not my position to say you're on the wrong path, and nor is it your position to say I'm on the wrong path. I think this allowing of others to explore different cultures in such a beautiful way and have appreciation for it, and not, you're bad if you don't do this.
Yeah, and so if your interpretation of being a Christian makes you a better person with a loving heart and more forgiveness, then that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. If your interpretation is everybody else is condemned to eternal torment, and in the case of the Native Americans, they're just heathen. They're gonna burn forever. So we could convert them and take their land, and we're doing them a favor. Or what they utilized to get people to go and invade the Holy Land, quote unquote, with the Crusades, and again kill people of a different faith, the Islamic faith. And Islam and Christianity set totally towards each other. So it's when people become so blinded, thinking that theirs is the one true faith and that the other people are going to be tormented in hell forever anyway, that allows them to burn witches, to move the indigenous people off their land, slaughter them, kill them, steal from them, and think somehow you discovered something in a noble way. That's just an atrocity, and there's no excuse for that. So, again, when people say, I'm a patriotic American, and you believe in everything America stands for, well, America's been at war for 97% of its history. And war exterminating the people that were here, taking their land. What are you patriotic about that? I mean, people don't really think. You're patriotic about everything they've sold you. And this is the part of the big reveal. And so, and again, I do speak of my mom and her generation, because they were naive. They were very naive. They didn't understand this. Now, it didn't really hurt her soul at all, because of her naiveness. She wasn't aware. She really thought that this was the greatest country in the world. She didn't know about all the regime change, the wars, the extortion, the drug trade, et cetera, et cetera. She didn't understand the big picture. And so not understanding that kind of kept her in a protective bubble of sorts.
And this brings me back to an article I read a few times, actually, and every time I read it, it really sticks out at me. Of this scientists got fleas. It was fleas, and they put them in a jar, and the jar was probably a couple inches tall. And these fleas, they left them in the jar for 3 days, and these fleas would only jump, they discovered they could only jump as high as the lid. Well, you take the jar away, and the fleas, they only still jump as high as the lid. They don't know that they can jump any higher. Now, with our education system and our everything else, they put kids in a system for 12 years, and they show them the boundaries, and then no one knows that they can go beyond those boundaries. And I think that's just where we're stuck at, because we don't realize what we can do, because once we do realize that, we become a threat to the belief system. So it's only natural for the belief system to set it up to make sure that people keep catching other people and saying, come back, come back, come back, instead of exploring your own true identity and who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so There's 105 wars on this particular list right here. This is a wiki list, that shows, again, the fact that America has been at war 93% of the time, according to this article. It was updated April 2nd, 2023, originally printed 2015. It's been nonstop. And in fact, again, we were just, notified recently by the experts that about 4.5 to 5 million people have died in wars since 9/11 by the response to 9/11. And yet we understand that 9/11 itself was part of the system. Absolutely. It was all about the Patriot Act. And, again, what could be so patriotic about imposing, again, more eavesdropping on every single man, woman, and child, controlling their lives? The system is as corrupt as corrupt could possibly be. And this is part of the big reveal. We could do so much better just, looking to our pets, looking to nature. You want true love, you could get it. It's right there all the time. Look at, he's crying, and she's like, I got you, bro.
How beautiful is it that you can spend a lifetime with a being, and there's no words spoken from that being, not one word spoken, but everything around just screams love. I look at Rama and I hug him, and he doesn't say not one word to me, but he doesn't have to. And he loves me and I love him, and there needs not be any words. That's the thing. We can learn so much from what we call animals, and sometimes I feel like calling them animals is degrading, because really they are so much better than us in so many ways.
Yeah, so Genesis 1, if you look over here at 11, verse 11, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it according to the various kinds, and thus it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kind, and God saw it was good the third day. And it goes on, and it does say, again, that your food is to be the seeds and the seed-bearing things. It's the fruit that's to be your food, and the herbs of the leaves are to be your medicine. So, again, that's more talking about when we're in the higher vibrational frequencies, because then we go to the fall, so to speak. Yeah, right there. Everything that has the breath of life in it, all the beasts of the earth, all the birds in the sky, all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food, and thus it was so. And then after the fall, which again, the fall is really the fall of the yugas, it's as we descend, and then coming under the dark matrix, not the original matrix, that's when we're given dominion. And really, it's the controller's offspring and genetic bloodlines that are given dominion over the earth to utilize anything in any way you want. And that's where we end up with the blood sacrifice. That's where we end up with eating meat, etc. And so we're still in a heavier age, and there's going to be a lot of people that eat meat. And in a golden age, do people eat meat? No. In the silver, no, probably not really. It's more Bronze Age that we start fading that out, and it starts to become something that again is a relic of the Dark Age.
It is, and I don't want it to become something like you're good if you eat meat, you're bad if you eat meat. Well, it's not about that. It's just about the age that we're in, and to me, I look at the indigenous people, and they looked at it as offerings. To me, it's all about how do you accept the offering when a deer shows up and they are able to kill it. Well, the deer has offered itself to them. So, but if we're eating stuff that is like mass produced and animals that are killed in such a mass, unritualistic way or ritualistic way, but in a bad way, I mean, you're taking in all of those bad vibrations. These animals have feelings just like we do. They really do. And that's, just something that we should heed and keep in mind. But right now, from what I see and understand, there are parts of our bodies that do need some of that meat. But how do you take it? How do you let it go in your body? Do you charge it for a long amount of time? I think that for me, that's the best way I have found, so that if I'm going to eat meat, I'm very careful where it comes from, and I do charge it.
And everybody's different, again, depending on your blood type. If you're type A, you probably have a natural tendency and could be a vegetarian quite easily. If you're type B, you're probably pretty flexible. Again, you should maybe think about avoiding chicken, and you probably should avoid chicken anyway at this point in time, unless it's grown on a farm and you know it. Because and it's yours, because the chickens, again, there's a lot of arsenic, there's a lot of other stuff in chickens. And then again, if you are now you're the one that's going to be the natural meat eater. So, again, each person's unique with unique health issues as well. The thing is, what's the difference between the kitty's soul, a puppy's soul, and say a calf or a lamb? There's really no difference. They're in different vehicles, but they're all the souls are source energy. So yes, the consciousness can love, can feel fear, can feel all the emotions that we feel.
And when you do feel that love of source, then that's when you know you're right in your heart and soul. It's just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. So on that note, thanks for your support over on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.